Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for tuning in. This is our third installment of Emmet's Place Education, and we are so lucky to have a very special guest today, someone who I'm particularly excited to have and who represents a wealth of knowledge in the world of jazz and just creation as an artist overall. Cyrille Aimée is a Grammy-nominated international jazz vocalist. She's the winner of the Montreux Jazz Festival Vocal Competition. She's the winner of the Sarah Vaughan International Jazz Vocal Competition. She's been recognized by many jazz masters and storytellers, including Stephen Sondheim, who comes from the theater and recognized her as for her great storytelling gift. Honored her, picked her to star alongside Bernadette Peters at the New York City Center with Wynton Marsalis and the Jazz at Lincoln Center Orchestra, of course. Beyond that, we could talk all day about her accomplishments, but she's a master storyteller, sharing her stories through this art form all around the world. And she's here today to answer all of your questions. So once again, if you're just joining us, feel free to drop your questions in that Q&A tab on the Zoom. If you're joining us on Facebook or YouTube Live and you want to figure out how to get into the Zoom, make sure to sign up at emmetcohen.com/education. And you'll find the Zoom link there. You can join us because this is where we'll be taking questions. And lastly, but most definitely not least, we would like to thank Adam R. Rose for sponsoring this Emmet's Place Education Masterclass series. And please put your virtual hands together. It's going to be silent. But for Cyrille, she's here with us today. You want to go ahead and say hello?
Hello, everybody. I can see there's people from all over. Amazing. Bonsoir de Paris.
Yes.
Hello from Italy, Verona, Canada. It's beautiful. Thank you for joining.
Awesome. All right, we've got just a couple questions so far, so make sure you drop them into the Q&A and not in the chat. Greetings all around the world. All right. So I think we're just going to start and jump right into all these questions because they're about to fly in. We got a question from Benjamin Nicholas, who's asking, what are your favorite musical qualities in other jazz vocalists? So maybe to broaden that question, you could talk about some of your primary influences when it came to studying jazz vocals.
I think the first vocalist that made me fall in love with jazz and with improvisation was Ella Fitzgerald. What I love about her is her joy and how just natural it feels whenever she's singing, and she's not. It sounds like she's not even trying. She's just having fun, and yeah, the having fun was what made me fall in love with Ella. Apart from her, there's so many amazing vocalists that come out also from the world of jazz. I grew up listening to a lot of Michael Jackson and Stevie Wonder, and I love Bobby McFerrin, Louis Armstrong, Frank Sinatra, Billie Holiday, and today Concha Buica, a Spanish singer. Many. It's difficult to kind of put that only in the jazz box. So many singers have influenced me.
That's a great answer, and it's so great that you mentioned Ella, because last week Patrick also spent quite a bit of time talking about how he found influence from Ella Fitzgerald himself and through his sound.
Nice. So, someone just asked how you spell Buica, and I wrote it in the chat. It's Buika.
Perfect. As you you named a lot of great singers and musicians from the jazz style and not the jazz style. Somebody's asking, how do you find your sound in the midst of all of that? Have you always had a clear idea of what you were looking for? Do you feel like you found your own voice, and what was that process for you?
I think my voice is me searching for my voice. That's the only constant of my sound. you know, because my sound changes. It has changed throughout the years, and I'm sure it will change as I get inspired by, you know, various new things. Like, for example, a few years ago, I didn't know about Sondheim, and now he's part of my sound. He's part of my influence. And as you keep searching, as you keep discovering new colors, new paths, new countries, new people, new experiences, your sound changes. And in order to let that happen, you have to always be open for it to change, and to let life take you in any direction, and therefore music take you in any direction. So the one constant of my sound is me searching for what's next, being open for what's next, and being open for newness. And yeah, that's what makes it fun, you know.
Yeah. Obviously this is not all vocalists who are tuning in. There's a lot of, instrumentalists, and there's also aspiring vocalists and people who just like to appreciate listening to the music. I know whenever we've had instrumentalists on here, they always talk about the influence of singing and trying to sing through their instrument. And you're in a different kind of lane because you're a vocalist. So some people are here wondering, do you have any influence from instrumentalists, from horn players? And the second part to that question is, somebody was told that they should learn to play the piano to become a better vocalist. So has experimentation with the piano or other instruments influenced your musicianship?
So for the first part of that question, of course, I've been extremely influenced by instrumentalists. I studied in a school, SUNY Purchase College, where I was the only singer. I was the only vocalist, and so I was in a class with only instrumentalists. And I listened to a lot of instrumental jazz, from Miles to Coltrane to Ahmad Jamal, Oscar Peterson, Errol Garner. The list goes on. Those are some of my favorites, but I've been very, very highly influenced by instrumentalists. But one misconception that I hear a lot of some people say is, when you scat, do you try to sound like an instrument? No, I don't try to sound like an instrument. In fact, just like you said, Bryan, the instruments are trying to sound like the voice. And so we don't have to, we are directly, we don't go through an external instrument in order to create, to connect, and to touch. So we don't need to, as vocalists, to try and sound like an instrument. That's not my goal at all. And the second part of the question, I forgot. What was the second part of the question? Oh, Bryan, you're muted.
Yeah. Have you experimented with instruments like the piano or any other?
No. I'm starting a little bit to play on the guitar, and mostly on the baritone, which is an instrument that I just discovered. But of course, everything is a bonus. Everything is extra. If you know how to play the piano, I'm sure it brings something to your singing. But as someone who doesn't play, who doesn't feel really comfortable on any other instrument than the voice, yeah, I never found that I was lacking in it for improvising. For writing music, maybe, yeah, because it's easier to translate, to tell the band, okay, this is a B flat or whatever, but I don't read music. And so when I'm writing, I can only transfer what I'm hearing through the sound, not through written.
Absolutely. Okay, we're going to keep jumping around, so it's going to be a little bit of a popcorn of categories that we jump to. A couple of people are asking, somebody's asking, where are you now? And I'll extend that question. You are such an international musician. And like before we started, you mentioned you have a lot of different home bases. And for a lot of us aspiring musicians, could you speak a little bit to the different music scenes and what you get out of Manhattan versus France versus Costa Rica versus New Orleans and wherever else you've traveled?
Yeah, well, right now I'm in Costa Rica in the jungle. where I'm building a house. Um, and kind of like what we talked about in the very first question, I'm always in search of newness, and which is why I've been jumping all around the world. You know, I started music when I discovered when I started hanging out with the gypsies in my village in France, and fell in love with their music and learned all I could from them. Spent all my time with them, and that took me to when I wanted to go to the United States, and I wanted to go infuse myself with that scene. And before going there, I lived a couple years in my mom's country, from the Dominican Republic. She's from the Dominican Republic, so I lived in Santo Domingo a couple years, and I went to New York, and was super inspired there. Learned so much, met incredible musicians, including Emmet, and then after a while, I spent like 10, 12 years in New York, and after a while, I wanted something new. I discovered New Orleans and fell in love with the vibe there. It reminded me a lot of the gypsies, actually. You know, this culture of making music for the fun of it, not for a career, not for money, not for anything else than just sharing in community. How the music is live over there in New Orleans. And so I went to discover New Orleans, and I grew up in a little village in the middle of the forest, so I was always very connected to nature. And I had been coming here in Costa Rica for many years, every winter. And every time I would come here, I would write a lot of music. And so I decided during the pandemic to come here and be in nature and compose. And I just fell in love with this place as well. And that's why I started building a house here. And it's not really about the particular scene, because there's not really a scene in Costa Rica. It's what that can bring to me, to my soul as a human, not just as a musician. And if you feed your soul as a human, you feed your soul as a musician. You have a story to tell. You have a sound. You have a voice that gets more and more defined as you seek. You know, as you seek what makes you feel good, and to remember that it's not just. Music is not a category in itself. It's not just about music. To me, music is part of life. I hear music when I'm sitting by the river here, and to help me focus on other things helps me in my music.
Absolutely. That was a very full answer. We've got some questions about getting more tangible about technique. Do you have a warm-up routine or practice routine or vocal technique? Is there ways that you maintain your voice? So all things related to technique.
Yeah, that's where I'm because I fell in love with music through gypsies, and they're not, meaning I didn't get into music through an academic way, not at all. And so that's one part of the work that I never found so much patience to do. I warmed up a few times, you know, like the competitions that you named. I did a little warm up, like, you know, but I'm not I don't really sit down and do technique. For me, the growth is in, only because it's not fun for me, but for some people it may be super fun. And for me, if it's not fun, then I'm thinking, why am I doing it? I'm not trying to be the best in the world. I'm just trying to enjoy myself. And luckily I get paid for it, you know. But no, I don't have a warm-up routine. I like to sing, like when I'm riding my bike. I love singing when I'm riding my bike. When I listen to records that I love, I listen to them over and over and over and over and over again until I know the whole record by heart. That's an amazing exercise, and it's fun. And I love to dance, and that's a great exercise for rhythm. not enough jazz musicians dance, and I work on my music in a way that makes me feel good, not in a way that I think I should.
Yeah, absolutely. Were there particular things you mentioned you went to SUNY in New York? Were there things any lessons that you had that were memorable where they suggested you check out something or you try a different way of thinking about a concept or anything that you remember influencing your musicianship?
Yeah. There was I remember a moment at Purchase College. This teacher, Ralph Lama, he's a great saxophone player, and he speaks like he plays, like, you know. And I was in his combo, and I don't know, like 21 or something, and he told me, I don't know if I'm allowed to swear on this, but this is what he said: "What the fuck is up with that fucking vibrato? Get rid of that fucking vibrato." And it was like so straight to the point, you know. And I realized I had this vibrato that was just like I was not controlling it. It was almost like my default. And it helped me really listen to what I do and to really pick and choose when I want a note to be long or to be short, not to fall into bad habits. And it made me realize also that most of the learning is unlearning, because we go through life and we start to stack on these habits, these things we find. And I think the work is to always try to come back to the core, to who we are, without having all these things that we think sound good or all these extra things. It's really about getting rid of that and coming back to the core, so that you leave space for new things to come up until it's time to do the big sweep again. And that's also how you always find your sound, and you're always aligned with your path and your growth and where you're at, is by not holding on to things that that you discovered years ago and that are just sticking on to you. Like giving the space for it to breathe and to exist or not.
Absolutely. You mentioned you alluded to writing a lot, and your inspiration for writing happening a lot in Costa Rica in particular. A couple of people are asking about your writing process. I know this is such a personal question in so many ways because everyone's writing process is so different. And could you speak to your writing process, if you have one, or however fluid it may be?
Yeah. Well, everyone has their own writing process, and also everyone's writing process evolves and changes. I don't have one writing process. Like, there's songs that I write with the looper, like my little loop machine. There's songs that I write on the baritone uke. There's songs that I write on the guitar. There's songs that I co-write with friends. But usually the music comes before the lyrics for me. And it's almost like I'm improvising. I find, like, for example, when I'm on the bari uke, because I don't know the chords, I just place my fingers in shapes that seem easy to do, and then I find a few that just work well together, and then singing, like improvising on it until I find something that kind of seems to come back every time. And okay, well, that's the melody. And then I try it, and then I just sing it more and more and get out of the scat syllables and try to come up with words that are the closest to those scat syllables that I was doing, the words that flow the most with it. So it's not even about the story yet, it's about the sound of the words. And then when I find words that make sense, I'm like, okay, so this song's about that. And then I try to find the story, and that's what is harder for me, is the lyrics, because also I never know if I want to write the song in English or Spanish or French, and sometimes I want to mix the languages in the song, so that's the part that takes me the longest.
Yeah, to jump off of that question, you're talking about, you're obviously multilingual, and there's so much language is music in so many ways, and all these different languages, they hit the ear differently, and they have different words that mean different things sometimes. So how do you decide which language is the right language? And yeah.
Yeah. Well, right now I'm writing a song that has the verses and chorus in English and the pre-chorus is in Spanish. And it kind of decides itself. I don't really decide the melody, because every language has its own melody, you know?
Yeah.
Like French is very petit petit, the petite bouche, the little mouth. English is wah, you know, very wide open vowels. So depending on the melody, one language than another, depending on how you're writing, and which is cool when you can write in 3 languages. You can really pick the best language for each melody.
Yeah. We got a little bit of a tech question. You mentioned your looper, and I know a lot of people on here maybe aren't familiar with that technology. And then we have somebody who's much more familiar with it, who's asking you a loop station question. They said, why did you choose the RC505? Is that the right model, they say?
Yeah.
So if you can even explain what looping is, how you use it, and for this person, why did you choose the looper you have?
I've been through a few loopers, and my very first one was the Digitech Jamman, which is a small 2 things to press, but it's for the feet. And it was kind of limiting. It was good. It was a great place to start. But then I wanted more than two tracks. So I got the Boss RC50, and that one's great. You can do a lot of things, but it's so heavy, and it's also, the buttons are made for feet. So when you're using it for your hands, it's like you got to really press on it. And yeah, the Boss RC505 is kind of, for me, the perfect one. It's very light, and it's made for hands, and it can do so many more things than what I'm actually doing with it. It's like just unlimited, but it's very easy to use. There's another one. It's I forgot. This really great singer uses it, Michael Mayo. I saw a question go by asking about male vocalists. Michael Mayo, check him out, and also Sachel Vasandani. Check him out. There's a lot of great male vocalists. Yeah, Michael Mayo uses that one, but I don't like it personally because it's a touch screen, and so you have to really look at it in order to press the button, whereas the RC505, you can close your eyes and feel you can look at the audience or close your eyes and feel where the buttons are. Oh yeah, let me write the names. Michael Mayo, Sachel Vasandani. There's more, but right now that's
Awesome. Yeah, we're gonna switch it up again and get more into the, I guess you could call it the business side of things. Obviously, a lot of the people on here are aspiring musicians. I would include myself in that group. What were a few key actions that you took to lead to the launching of your career as a jazz artist? In terms of, like you mentioned, getting paid for doing what you love to do.
Yeah, I mean, challenging myself, you know, like those competitions that you talked about, those really got me into the spotlight. And that's because I won them, but I wouldn't have won them if I hadn't done other competitions that I lost. You know, it's just by the ones you read on my bio that I won, it's great, but you don't read about the ones that I didn't win. And there were many of those, and those taught me so much. And it's really about that, about putting yourself out there and taking risks and getting out of your comfort zone so that your comfort zone expands.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I read on your website too that back when you were a youth, you did a lot of performing on street corners and such. And even in New York, you performed at, you know, a restaurant in Soho and at Birdland. And I guess that's getting a little bit more established. But could you talk about, you know, even doing all of that? What was the importance of that for you, and how did that help you develop as a young upcoming artist?
Just doing it, you know,
Yeah.
just performing and just always being on the stage. There's no better school than that, and not trying to burn the steps. I feel like we're in a society where we want everything fast, and you know, we want to get there quick, but burning the steps, you're missing a lot. It's enjoying the process, enjoying where you're at, and knowing that it's going to be a path forever. You're never going to get there. That doesn't really mean anything. So yeah, I did a lot. I played at the Cupping Room in Soho for 7 years every Saturdays. I did a lot of, you know, those gigs where people are just talking and asking you, can you lower the music, please? But I learned a lot from that, because I learned how to get people's attention. You know, like that gig at the Cupping Room was just bass, drums, and voice for 4 hours every Saturday. No harmony, no chords. And people are there to eat. They're not there for the music. And so I had to really, my improvisation had to really outline the color of the harmony, because the people were missing. In order for them to hear the song and really get and enjoy and pay attention, they had to hear the harmony. So my scatting became, I learned so much in improvisation because of that, because it was just bass, and so I had to fill in the blanks and really draw the chords, and so I learned a lot thanks to that, you know, thanks to people not paying attention. So yeah, I always tell my students, when you see the people that your idols, the people that you feel have made it, the famous people, they're not there because all through their career it was a red carpet and it was super easy and they nailed everything. No, they're there because every single time they fell, and they got up, they got back up, and they kept going. And yeah, and it's really about just in falling.
Yeah, absolutely. That's very inspirational and very powerful. So thank you for that. Let's talk more about this idea of filling in the harmony and scatting and improvisation. Obviously, I and many of the people on here feel that you're one of the great jazz improvisers, vocalists alive. And for people who don't understand getting into scatting, could you speak a little bit towards how they might introduce their voices to improvisation, and even scat syllables? It can be so baffling to people.
Yeah. Again, don't try to burn the steps. Accept where you're at and have fun with it. I would say, you know, where did it all start? Listen to Louis Armstrong. When he's improvising, he's playing the melody. Start by scatting the melody and make it feel good, you know? Just because I know that one of the scary things is getting rid of the words. Okay, what do I do now? I always say, the less you try, the better. It's kind of like when you tell someone, hey, you know that song, how's it go? You know, It Had to Be You. Oh no, you know that song goes da 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 da. You're not trying, you know? You're just like telling the song to someone. Get in that zone. Don't try to sing, and start with just whatever comes out the easiest. And for the syllables, that's why I like to tell my students to transcribe transcribing someone else's syllables, because it's very personal. Whatever my syllables feel good and natural to me are going to be very different than what are the syllables that come out of you most natural. That's why, you know, Sarah Vaughan doesn't sound like Ella, and Ella doesn't sound like Chet, because they each have their own easiest way of coming up with sound, really, because there's no right or wrong. It's really all about just what sound's going to come out of your mouth. And I remember when I kind of realized that, there was a festival in my village, that it's the Django Reinhardt Festival that happens every year in my village. And it was the summer where I was completely in love with Ella. I just discovered her, and I was learning all her solos by heart. And I was thinking, how do I come up with that? What am I supposed to say? Am I supposed to say doobie-doo or shooby-doo or wubby-wah? You know, I didn't know what to say. And I was looking for my mom all over the village, and she had my keys, and I didn't know where she was. And I went into this boat where there was a concert, and it was the middle of the concert. And the guitar player on stage was playing, and he was scatting, and he was doing the most ridiculous thing I've ever seen. He was going like, but it sounded awesome. And I thought at this moment, that it sounds awesome because it just came out so natural, because it was just in the moment. That's the sound that came out of him. It didn't sound awesome because he like prepared it and like practiced it, and it's just, that's what came out of him, super honestly. And he was just having fun. And so, yeah, I want to tell you guys who are starting to scat, there's no right or wrong way to do it. Just have fun. It's all about the intention.
Yeah, that's great. I have a follow-up to that, but before I do that, okay, we're about halfway through, y'all, so I want to get some view in here too. And I know Cyrille definitely wants to meet a few of you as well and have you ask your questions. So if you're in the Zoom and you would like to come on video and you're ready for that, just click that raise hand button, and I'll pop over to a few of you and have you come in. But I just wanted to ask this one question while we wait for people to do that. There's this sense of freedom that you have. You're obviously a very physical performer, and you talk about seeing that guitarist who just was so free that he just felt the instinct and went for it. I know a lot of young jazz musicians, there's a lot of insecurity that goes into creating on the fly and just going with your instincts, when so much of, you know, our lives were taught to restrain ourselves and be polite and all these things. How did you ever struggle with that as yourself, with following instincts and wanting to do something that was hip, or following your own voice, and how did you overcome that?
Of course. I feel like the more I've been teaching, the more I realize this. It's that the obstacle that the singers or, you know, musicians find themselves in front of is not their instrument or their musicality. It's the obstacle that they give themselves of not feeling good enough, and always comparing on the social media, and everything we see that it's posted is super edited. It's, you know, it's super filtered, and there's this sense of needing to create perfection, and that's why I say, for me, the work is not only musical. It's not only about, you know, learning your skills and this and that, which maybe that's great, but the work is also in working on yourself as a human and taking care of yourself as a human, so that you don't put all your eggs in the music basket, so that you don't feel like your identity depends on how good a musician you are. Especially, I feel like this affected a lot of musicians during the pandemic, when all of a sudden we were not on stage anymore, and we were wondering, who are we if we're not making music? And by taking care of yourself as a human, by nurturing all your other sides, your music is gonna bloom and flourish, because it's not gonna be a life or death thing anymore. It's gonna be the intention, the spirit that comes, that it's gonna that the spirit that's going to move your music is going to come from just, you know, the love of life, not just the love of chords and harmony, and, you know, which is a very small part of music. Music is about telling stories. It's about sharing the love, about sharing this beautiful voice that we all have to express our emotions that we all share, you know? It's about connecting with people, showing that we're all vulnerable, that we're all imperfect. And that's why people get touched by music, is because they recognize the humanity in all of us. And so yeah, I guess my advice is to take care of yourself, as whatever that means, you know, whether it means, you know, for me it means coming more to connect with nature and actually listening to silence, listening to less music sometimes can be good for you. And remember that no one sounds like you. That you can't compare yourself. No one sounds like you.
Wow, that was so great, so beautiful. Somebody said you should be a life coach in the chat too. Yeah, so we're gonna have some people jump in now. So if you've got your hand raised, I might be coming to you. I'm gonna start with Yuval, the jazz master. I hope you're ready. We're coming to you. One second.
Hey.
Hello, Yuval.
Hi. I've been a big fan of you and your singing from what I've seen in some of the Emmet live streams, and I've been to each one of these. And yeah, it's a beautiful voice, Cyrille. I mean it.
Thank you.
My question is, I'm personally not a singer, but I do know I have many friends that are singers, and while some of them don't actually sing jazz, some of them do, and they do want to improve. So I'm wondering, how does one improve a voice, even though it's something you're born with? Is there any way to, like, I guess, improve singing, or is it something that you're born with and you have to deal with what you're given?
Yeah. The first step is to accept what you're given and to fall in love with that, because you're not going to change it. And see the beauty of it being different, it being singular and unique. That's where the work is. The work is not in trying to change your voice, because second of all, if you succeed in changing your voice, it's going to sound unauthentic. So the first step is in falling in love with your voice. Getting rid, like I was saying about the unlearning, like when my teacher told me to get rid of this sticky. Why did I have this vibrato at the end of it? My voice wasn't enough. I had to dress it up. Getting rid of all these extra things that we think will add coolness or hipness to our sound. Getting rid of all of that to leave the space for what we actually want to express, to flourish. Look at Billie Holiday. Billie Holiday has a tiny little range, and she's not a big technician like Ella or Sarah Vaughan, but she touches your soul with what she's got. She's doing with exactly what you said. She's doing with what she's got. And that she's the proof that you don't need much. It's all about the intention. It's not about the sound.
Thank you. Seriously, thank you so much.
Thank you, Yuval. You're muted, Bryan.
I don't know how that keeps happening. Okay, Elena, we're coming to you. Oh, there.
Okay.
Hello, Elena.
Hello, Cyrille and Bryan. How are you guys?
Good.
Good. Wow, I was floored. Just over the pandemic, I came upon Emmet's online, stuff. I'm just north of New York a bit, like 4 hour, 3 hour drive, and I'm coming to New York at some point. But I'm a mom, and kind of kooky juggling act, as you might know. But yeah, so I just sort of I'm late. I'm a late bloomer. I was a teacher, and I'm trying to launch my own sort of musical situation. I'm sort of caught between voice and piano, and I'm a writer, and so it's kind of a lot of elements. But I guess I am fascinated with how do artists like yourself, do you form teams of like how did the production all happen? Were there lots of like people that you hired that helped it all um, get going for you? This was like about 2010-ish, or for you when you started putting out albums, or am I like, I don't know if I followed you
Oh, um,
correctly.
it's really it's a whole journey, you know.
Yeah.
I definitely think it's very important to surround yourself. Hey, Emmett.
Hey, what's up?
One of your millions of fans. Anyway, sorry. Thank you for
I
and
I think
yeah,
it's important to surround yourself with people who have an energy that you connect with. You know,
yeah,
it's not just about finding the best musician, the
yeah.
best career, people in the business. It's about surrounding yourself with people that love you and people that you love, because also part of this work is spending a lot of time with the people who you're going to be playing music with,
Mm-hmm.
whether it's in the studio or on tour. And um, and it's not having a team that helps you, it's everyone is part of the project. So yeah, so I think it's important to find people that you feel good with.
Mm-hmm. So just
Start with
starting there.
one. If you play piano, start with, I don't know, a bass player, or
Mm-hmm. Yeah, just begin to build. I think
yeah,
I am kind of there, but then I'm just boggled by all the technical aspects of getting yourself seen, and photography and video, and not so much the sound production so much, but just all the
you mean like is
yeah,
social media?
yeah, I guess so. And then I haven't started to play out with a band yet, as far as my project right now, but that whole like how
Put
to
yourself out there.
yeah, and it's like you're the organizer for everything, I guess, because it's you, right? But
I mean, I have a manager and I have an
oh,
agent.
okay,
Yeah,
right,
yeah,
yeah, yeah, okay.
yeah.
So yeah, you found those people that love you, that do that
Yeah.
athletic thing, and
But in order to find them, they had to hear me.
yeah,
They
okay.
had to know I exist,
So
and
you were
that's the
playing
thing.
out,
I
yeah,
was playing out. I had
yeah,
recorded a CD. You
yeah,
need to have a presence.
yeah. So that's what I gotta do. Okay, that's kind of what I was wondering. Like, what is the first step in this? Like, do all this other work before going out, or
Record some
ah,
music. Record
yeah,
some music. That's the first step.
okay, yeah. Well, I hope to follow in your footsteps someday.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Bye, Lana.
Bye bye.
And Cyrille, I think also, this is something that is more recent to me, what you talked about. Before you get the agent, the manager, the publicist, the whole team, whatever, you just love the music and you found opportunities to perform for free, on the street, and just any chance to perform and be seen. Like you performed for probably not that much at that restaurant for the 4 hours for 7 years. And that probably was a great,
Yeah,
but
yeah, but yeah, of course. Well, like we talked about, it's a whole. We gotta enjoy the journey, and for Lana, I hear what she's saying is she's not a college student. She has kids, and she's a, like she said, a late bloomer. Um, but you still have to put yourself out there in order for people to see you and hear you.
Absolutely. All right. Welcome, Emmett. You popped in the middle there. You got anything you
Hey,
want to
Hey.
baby.
Hey, Cyrille, thank you for doing this today. Hey,
Of
everybody out
course.
there. How's it going so far? I'm in the recording studio today,
Nice.
so I'm just tuning in, saying hi.
We're in the
Where-
middle of having some people jump in, so I'll grab somebody else. Fred Markson, are you ready? We're promoting you to the panelist now, so you're going to come on. Fred?
I got unmuted now. Okay.
There you go.
I live in Tucson, and I believe Emmett's on his way to Tucson. But anyway, Cyrille, I saw you on the 2019 cruise, and I was just enchanted with your whole personality and your singing. And I don't remember the name of the nightclub of the club in New York City. But when you first went, it's where they boo you off if they don't like your singing. And
Apollo Theater.
oh, Apollo, yeah. And so you, I don't have, let me start my video. And so you explained how, you learned from that and you came back and you won. So, I mean, that really inspires me. But the question I have, and I'm not a singer, but my first experience was as a kindergartner. We were behind the screen ready to perform for the parents. And the teacher comes to me and says, Fred, just voice the words. So my question is, it's too late for me, but what would you say to a kid that had that happen?
I didn't understand what.
Oh, okay. Let me elaborate. So here I am, a kindergartner, ready, and before they open the stage, the teacher says to me, Fred, just mouth the words.
Oh.
I had a traumatic experience, and I can remember like even in junior high, and the teacher would come around to see how everybody was doing, and I would close my mouth, So my question is, what would you say to a young kid that had that happen to him?
I don't know what I would say to him, but do you know the singer that I mentioned before, Buika? She's one of my favorite singers. She's a Gitana Spanish singer. She sings a kind of flamenco, like very, like very raspy, like broken voice. And I saw her she was playing at Town Hall in New York, and she was starting to introduce a song. She's really incredible. And she was starting to introduce a song, and she said, this song is about remembering who you are and where you come from. And she told this story. She said, when I was young, when I started singing, I was singing in a choir. And the first time I sang in front of people, it was in this choir. And in the middle of one of the songs, the director said, stop, 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 stop. Who is singing like a dog? And he was looking in my direction. I never sang in a choir ever again. I love my dog voice. That's what she said. And I thought that was the most beautiful story, because that's what I'm talking about when I say fall in love with your voice, with whatever you were born with. Fall in love with it, because it's so unique. And that's what makes Buika unique.
Yeah, thank you so much for that. And that's why I asked you the question, because what you had said before, that you just repeated about discovering your own voice, and that's what you have, go with it. So I appreciate that example you gave me. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Fred.
All right. There's so many people. Unfortunately, we won't be able to get to everyone, but we're going to squeeze as many as we can in the time that we have. Martin Yassin, I'm coming to you. I saw you pop up quick, so thanks for your patience. Just one moment. Hey, Martin, are you there? Almost. Oh, there we go.
Now I'm here.
All right. Thank you.
Hello? Oh, sun is hitting me hard here.
Hey, Martin, are you there?
I am here.
Oh, okay. Do you have a question for Cyrille?
Well, it's more in relation to a comment on the conversation that has been going on. And it seems to me, as I listen to a lot of young aspiring jazz singers, that people put a tremendous emphasis on scatting, which Cyrille obviously has a great natural talent for. But what we are as singers, we sing songs, and songs are like a script for an actor. Songs are words, and if you're going to be hope to be a great singer, it seems to me that your ability to convey what is in the song, the lyrics, and if you want to be a improviser, your ability to improvise with those lyrics is what is kind of the essence of really jazz singing. And as Cyrille was pointed out, I mean, Billie Holiday did not scat. Dinah Washington, she almost does not scat. Sarah scatted, but if you listen to most of her work, she doesn't really scat that much. Ella scatted. So it seems to me that you don't really hear people talking about improvising the lyric, improvising on the song, and everybody thinks of themselves as, oh, I'm a jazz vocalist because I scat. Well, that's not going to make you a jazz vocalist. And Cyrille has the ability to both be a very fine singer, and she's really developed a great deal, I think, over the past years in really conveying the song that she's singing. But I just wanted to make that point because I think it's something that's kind of lost on young jazz singers or aspiring jazz singers, and that there's a lot of work that they could do if they record themselves and listen to themselves sing the song again and again, and also their ability to carry the melody. Because I also hear a lot of people who they'll scat, and when they finish scatting and they try to come back to the melody and they're lost. And the melody just isn't there. And so there's a lot more.
Here.
Yeah.
I'm gonna jump in here. I'm curious, Cyrille, does anything stick out to you with what Marty's saying? Like,
well, first of all, hello, Marty. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you, Cyrille.
When talking about lyrics, I like to use the more like reinterpreting lyrics rather than improvising lyrics, because you're not really improvising them. You're still, the text, what's written, and I don't really like to big category of scat singing and lyric singing. To me, it's all music. It's all sound coming out of your mouth. And I still think when you're scatting when you're singing without lyrics, you're still telling a story. That's where I think sometimes I see some of my students being, and maybe that's what you were talking about, they're in melody mode, lyrics mode. Okay, I'm telling the story, and then now I'm scatting. And I try to make them realize that it's a continuation. What you're The way you're singing the melody, the way you're telling the story, this energy that you're building during the melody is gonna dictate, it's gonna take you through your improvisation, it's gonna guide you, it's the story is gonna continue. And same thing for the head out. Don't disconnect. Use that energy, use this beautiful story and take it out. And it's all just music. It's not even the word jazz is not, it's, I don't like to put categories into what's supposed to be done, what's not supposed to be done. If you don't want to scat, fine. For me, I love doing it because I just have a blast with it. But if you're doing it because you think you should, then yeah, it's better not to do it. Just do it if it's...
Cyrille, I'm wondering how you think about the set that you create as a whole, because we played together a number of times, duo, quartet, in different formats. And I know you have so many different kinds of groups. You play sometimes 2 guitars, and you're so versatile. But how do you think about putting together the set, including things like maybe I should scat, once or twice a set, or because you want to figure out that flow, and you're so good at figuring out that flow. I want to know how much of that is kind of preconceived, or are you just very experienced at this point?
Yeah. Man, I used to, when I would play at the Cupping Room, that gig that I talked about, where it's just bass, drums, and voice for 4 hours every Saturday, I would scat on every song. I was basically the only improviser, and so I did a lot of scatting. When I started to play, more official gigs like Birdland, a 1 hour and 15-minute set, then I started to kind of, to design the set so it wouldn't be over scatted. And maybe if there's there's various swingers, I'm going to do one of them and let the trumpet player have another one. Also with the band, I like to make sure everyone has kind of a spotlight. Instead of everybody blowing on every tune, this tune will feature the trumpet player, this tune will feature the piano player. And I prefer to have one feature so that they can really take it slow, take their time and build and stretch. And same for me, I have my feature solos where I really like building the sets, thinking about all of this, not just about what I'm gonna be doing on the set, but the whole band.
Yeah. Well, you're so good at that. And you're always able to keep the music so natural, but so engaging as well. And I think a lot of people forget that there's an audience of people that took a day out of their life or a night out of their life to come see you. And every time I play with you, I'm inspired by how much you care about giving to the people who came. And I think that ties in kind of nicely to when to scat, when to sing. And, you're just very aware of the audience. And I think now you're very aware of your audience of the cicadas in Costa Rica.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you, Emmet. Yeah. I think that's what was the hardest during the pandemic for me, was not having an audience in front of me. It's a huge reason of why I do this. When I started singing, it was with the Gypsies, and the way they share music is while someone's cooking a meal, people are playing and people are dancing, and it's really a communal thing. And yeah, I was missing the community feel of the music. I'm so grateful of having people, like you say, take a day out of their life to come and listen to me tell stories. And that's why I think when I pick songs, I try to pick lyrics that I can really connect to and really believe in and deliver with full honesty, because that's the way that's how I want my message to be, and that's how people can connect.
I have another question since I'm here. Maybe we talked about it already. I missed the first part, but post pandemic, post being in the pandemic, we're still in the pandemic, but having lived through that for 2 years, how did that change what you see for the world, what you experience for the world, like what you want to be in the world, and what you want for humanity and all of that?
Well, that's deep, Emmet. I mean, you know, who am I to decide what I think is best for humanity? I definitely realize that, and also not just for myself during this pandemic, not only on Zoom, but also I've been teaching at the Miami College. I feel we're lacking a little bit of connection, connection with ourselves and connection with the earth, you know,
Mhm.
and that goes also with the pace. The pace of life is so fast, and that's what we were talking about a little bit of. I see these kids, these college kids who are incredibly talented, who have insane talents, like way more than when I was in college. Like the level is just insane at that school, and it's part of it is because of the social media and the internet, because they have all these resources, all this giant unlimited library of music to learn from. But their blockage is of being so scared of not being perfect, of not delivering perfection. And I feel like if we connect with ourselves more, and if we take a step back and realize it's not all that important, then we can make real music.
Can I make a comment?
Mm-hmm.
A short one, and then we're going to
Very
move on to
short.
somebody else.
I want to get to somebody else because we're coming into our last 10 minutes.
A very short one. It just has always seemed to me as a jazz musician, and I've been involved in this for many decades, is that the real joy of being a jazz musician is the improvisational experience is an experience of constant growth. And if you're a real improviser, you are constantly in the process of growing and finding more and expansive ways to express yourself. And I think that goes for singing lyrics, and it goes for scatting. But the core is the improvisation and your growth as a human being through improvisation. That's my comment. Thank you.
Thank you, Marty.
Thank you, Emmet.
Thank you so much. All right, guys, everyone, we're coming into our last 10 minutes here. And for those of you who've been with us, you know, we like to kind of squeeze in a little bit of a speed round to get as many questions as we can answered in the last few minutes. So before we do that, I'm going to get one more person in here. Danny, I'm going to come to you in a second. But if you have a quick question that requires a 1 to 3 word answer, if you could drop that right in the Q&A section, I'd love to get as many of those in the last couple minutes. But while you do that, I'm coming to you right now, Danny, and you can ask Cyrille your question. There we go.
We got one more here?
Yeah, coming in right now. The tech, we always got to wait for a little bit.
It's faster in Costa Rica.
Huh? Yeah, I got good Wi-Fi here.
Hey, Danny.
It's me, Danny. Hello, Cyrille. Hello, Barry.
Hello.
First of all, I am going to thank you because, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Do you hear me?
Mm-hmm. Yes, I do.
I'm not listening.
We can hear you, yeah.
Oh, okay. So first of all, I want to thank you all because it's a nice opportunity to know you. I admire you both so much. And my question, Cyrille, is do you ever plan your solos like just for fun or for studying, or I don't know? And obviously when you're like performing, you're living the moment, right? But how do you prepare your solo even when it's full improvised in the real moment? Like, how do you think about it in the moment of the performance?
the only way to get better at improvising is by improvising. There's no secret potion. So if you were to prepare your solos, it'd be less improvised. So then when you have to improvise, you wouldn't know what to do. I suggest to always just jump in the water. No, I don't prepare my solos. I even sometimes get in arguments. I don't want to, and I've seen what happens, and you know, getting stuck and unsticking myself and exploring new colors and seeing where I can grow. Where is it that I can grow? It's so beautiful to know that, you know, to know where it is that you can grow. And yeah, just always jump in the water. That's a great thing. There's no right or wrong. There's no right way or wrong.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think thank you for your question. Really appreciate that.
Thank you, Danny.
Thank you for answering.
I think that one of the great messages I'm getting, at least from this whole talk, is just follow your own voice and your own, you know, development. And none of it is wrong. It's our own journey. And if you speak truly from here, it's just going to be a beautiful story, whatever that is.
And don't forget to connect with planet Earth.
Yeah. Planet Earth, all here.
I'm always reminded of that. And Cyrille, we usually see each other on the jazz cruise, and we're surrounded by the ocean, and we're like, this is the music right here. This is the music. This is the life. It's in the water. It's in the trees. It's in the plants. It's in the birds.
Yeah.
Exactly.
We got a ton of great speed round questions. So we're going to go to that next, and then we'll wrap up here. You are free to answer these as long as you want, but ideally I ask 1 to 3 words for the prompt. So we'll see if we can get as many of these in as we can.
Okay.
All right. Who is your favorite bassist to play with?
Ooh, well.
There's only one. Only one right answer.
Lex Warshawski. There's only one right answer. Lex Warshawski, he's a bass player from New Jersey, but he lives in New Orleans. He's awesome. Montclair, New Jersey.
What's the first song you learned with the Gypsies?
Sweet Sue.
What's your favorite instrument to play with in a duo set?
Guitar. Sorry, Emmet. I'm a guitar freak.
Do you have favorite scat syllables to use?
No. I mean, I guess I do a lot of ditter because it's easy.
Totally. When you transcribe music, do you do it by ear, or do you write it down, or you never write it down? Or
I don't read music, so by ear.
Awesome. Swing, bossa, or ballad?
Oof. Wow. Ballad.
Yes. Where are you going next after you leave Costa Rica?
I'm going to play in LA with the New Orleans Jazz Orchestra on Friday.
Duet or with a band?
Duet. Both, but duet.
Could you name 1 or 3 favorite records? I know it's a tough one.
Well, okay, Kind of Blue. Live at the Pershing. And Songs in the Key of Life.
I see Wonder in there. This is one that someone always asks this question, and it's always stumps the guest. So do you have a favorite standard?
I mean, it changes, but right now my favorite standard is I'll Be Seeing You.
3 musical inspirations. I know you said like 20 over the course of this, but if you could maybe summarize your musical inspirations into 3 people.
Django Reinhardt, Ella Fitzgerald, Michael Jackson.
What is the most recent thing that you listen to?
Oh, this band that I discovered from Cuba, Sexto Sentido. It's 6 women singing a cappella. It's incredible.
Amazing. And I think there's just one more, unless somebody else jumps in. Who would win in a fight between Emmet, Kyle, and Russell? Oh no, did we lose you?
Kyle,
Kyle.
all the way.
What are your favorite activities besides music?
Whoa. Riding my bike, swimming in the river, eating.
Yeah.
Yeah, many things.
Awesome. And the last question I see here is New York or New Orleans is more inspiring to you?
Both in so many different ways. You know, I feel New Orleans right now because I haven't been there for as long as I wanted. I've been in New York for 10 years and New Orleans just 3 years, including the pandemic. So right now, New Orleans is where my inspiration is.
Awesome. Well, that's all for the speed round. Thank you everyone for your many questions, and thank you so much to Cyrille for all of your beautiful answers and for your spirit and your time and your artistry.
Thank you.
Once again, if you're watching on Facebook or YouTube Live and you want to get involved next week to join the Zoom and potentially ask the guest your question yourself, make sure to go to emmetcohen.com/education to sign up there. Thank you so much to Adam R. Rose for sponsoring this series and making this educational component possible. And the biggest thank you, of course, today to Cyrille Aimée for joining us from Costa Rica with all of these amazing inspirational comments and thoughts about the world and the earth and music. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody.
Have a great day.